Okay, so here we are. Been super excited to talk to you, Dad, about lights. We've been talking about doing this interview for a while. And so I am going to start the presentation. There it is.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the first thing I wanted to do is introduce you for those who aren't familiar with you or your work. And I did put on there landscape designer for over 60 years and counting because you are still going strong. And you ventured into this occupation when you were quite young. I kind of think of it as when you were 18. I know that you've got some great stories to prior to 18, but that's kind of how I look at your career span. And you did have a large commercial landscape and landscape maintenance and installation. And you can correct me on what it was specifically, but a huge company that had over 350 employees at one point, and quite remarkable how much work you did in the Southern California area because we'll drive around. It's been like this for years, and you'll point out places all over that you were a part of many, many years ago. So you decided to leave the commercial industry. I'm going to guess it was 1980, 1981. And because your passion was working in people's yards, in their backyards, and really helping people to create a space that really influenced their lives in a very positive way. So, and then so since then, you've been working in the residential and in all different areas. I would say that your love is pools, but everything else that goes with it as far as landscaping. And so for this particular interview, I wanted to talk to you about lighting, but I'll start with showing some beautiful pools so people get an idea of uh, your style, and particularly in making pools that are natural shapes. Um, and so, if you would like to add anything to that before I go into showing a few of the pool shots.
Well, I think first of all, I want to say thank you, Shauna. This is a lovely opportunity to get a chance to look back on parts of my career that have been so exciting and getting a chance to do this and hopefully motivating some other people who decide to get into it. I'm very fortunate that a number of people that have kind of liked the idea of getting into it have come to me and talked to me about it. And I always encourage them because it's a wonderful profession to be in where you're helping people improve their lives. And just to go back when I did really decide to go into the residential work, it had been because we had done a number of residential places. We had a large division that did that along with maintenance and freeway work and apartments and everything else. But it was the individual homeowners that when we got done with them, the look on their face and they're being so satisfied and then using the space and improving their lives, that really showed me that that's really the area that I wanted to go. I wanted to make that kind of difference for people. So that was the start of it. And initially, when I sold off my half of the business, because I was in partnership with somebody, uh, I wasn't sure what I was going to be doing. But one of the building architects that I had worked with and really enjoyed working with calls me up and says, I got a project for you. And I said, well, okay. And it turned out to be a spectacular first way to kind of get back into this. And then one thing led to another and to another. And we built up another company that maybe got to a point of maybe 25 people, never the 350 that the other one got to. But we got to do a tremendous amount of wonderful places. And so I thank you for the opportunity to be able to go into that because it has been a wonderful program. Okay.
Well, I love it. And you've got so many fabulous stories. And this will be the first of what I hope to be many, because I'd like to delve into other areas, particular jobs that have been very impactful to you as well. And then into different segments, whether we do a focus on pools, a focus on fireplaces. So hopefully this is the first of many. We did a couple interviews. Boy, it's been a long time. Um, I'm not even sure how, a year and a half ago or something. So this is fun to get to do this again. Um, okay, so, and just so if anybody doesn't know who I am your daughter, and I have worked with you on and off for about 25 years now in the industry, and have learned a ton. But this is in my cells. It's in my DNA after growing up around this my entire life. And so I thank you for that, because this is really fun for me to look back and reminisce as well, because it's been a huge part of my entire life.
Well,
Okay.
yes, wonderful.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I wanted to show some pools just so people have some idea of your style, and because it's really very unique. I've never ever seen a pool or a style like yours. They're similar, but you are in a class, I believe. And yes, I'm partial, um, but I've also been in the industry for a long time, and I've seen a lot of stuff. And you have a very particular look.
Well, while you're on this particular shot, let me just kind of say that in most of the cases you're going to see, it's also a group of craftsmen that we've assembled. And you take a look at a picture like this, and there were at least 6 different companies that were involved in bringing this particular thing to its fruition. Uh, and many of the other companies that do this kind of thing, um, one guy pulls the whole thing together. I was very particular with each one of the craftsmen that worked on this, allowing them to do their particular skill and add to the overall feeling of it. And I've always felt this was important. This is a beautiful job up in Ojai, and it's a wonderful story that we'll get into at some later date. Okay.
Yeah. I've always likened this to you being the orchestrator,
Yeah.
and the fact that you understand how important it is to get that you one person isn't everything and can't do everything, and you go out and find these craftsmen, these artists that then create your vision, and you work closely with them, and you're on site every day checking and moving things and adjusting things and working so closely with them. And it's just an amazing process. And the fact that you've been willing to understand that and have that be such a big part of what you do is why the jobs are so spectacular.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Thank you.
Pool, I don't know if you want to say anything about this, but oh wait, it's the same
It's the
job.
same, it's the same pool from a different angle. There was actually a stream that flowed into it. What we're looking at is the spa that spills over into it. And then on the far side, one of my favorite parts of the pool is this beach that kind of goes up, and it was a wonderful chance to really create something. And the client was in a spot that they could do whatever they wanted to, and I got to kind of do that. So it was a very wonderful setting.
It's fabulous. Okay, I'm gonna see. Here's another beautiful pool with the infinity edge. And this has a little different style, but still very natural looking. Love all the rock work. And this is a fabulous job, which I would love to do an entire segment on this job.
Yeah. I mean,
It's gorgeous.
it's a really special situation, how it was actually done, the difficulty in doing it, and the amount of people who had actually said they couldn't do it. And it is truly a work of art
Yeah,
by all of the different craftsmen that were there. And there's some really neat stories about it. So yes, so at a later date, we'll go into more of that. Yes.
I would love to. Okay. And I actually switched the image. Yep, there we go.
Yep.
So this is a great example of a very natural, I hesitate to put this in the wrong place in a presentation or a talk or whatever, simply because people don't realize it's a pool. Like it does not look like a swimming pool. So you got to be in a situation where you can point that out. And this particular picture um, was opposite the editor's letter in the Western Garden book, which was quite an amazing thing, quite an honor. I know that, and we actually went to this photo shoot, Dad. I don't know if you remember, but we
Yes,
went.
I do remember seeing there. The other thing that was interesting about it was that it was being originally shot for a cover of Sunset Magazine.
Mm,
But then when they actually got the photo, they realized that putting it in the Western Garden book, which in the landscape industry is considered the Bible, and they put it full page right next to the editor's letter, they felt it was important enough to be able to show that particular way. So we were very honored. And then they also came back to me and said, we've picked out another picture of yours to put on the Sunset cover, but this was originally being shot. The photographer was there for 3 days in a row, shooting this from every angle. And what's interesting about this particular pool is we did this with a rubber liner, the same way that they would build reservoirs and other bodies, large bodies of water. We used that with the boulders and the sand, and the fellow that we did this for, he swam in it every single day and just loved it.
mm,
Yes.
yeah, it's amazing. Okay. And I did want to mention that you have had several articles in various magazines, a lot in Sunset, and there's a lot of really good stuff out there that you've been able to share. And this isn't all of it by any means, but I did just want to put together a nice little collage. Um, and you've also had a few covers.
Sunset Magazine and our relationship with them became very, very strong. And I pursued it in the beginning because I thought there was some things that we had out there that would fit very nicely into Sunset. And then when it started to happen, you mentioned other publications, and we have been in many different publications, but we actually ended up having like 80 articles in Sunset Magazine,
Wow.
and they became just one of my closest friends, um, who was a garden editor. And so the whole relationship was just absolutely fantastic. It just came out of almost nowhere. So we were very, very blessed to have this. And as you're showing, I mean, there's 3 covers, which is pretty hard to do. And we were very, very blessed.
Well,
Yeah.
I'd love to do a whole segment on your relationship with Sunset,
Yeah.
talking about some key articles. And so that would be a really fun one as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And here's another Sunset. It was on the previous, but I just wanted to highlight this is the swimming pools and
And,
spas.
and I'll just mention the thing that I find funny about it is that the picture on the right is the angle that you take. They ended up reversing it when they put it on the cover of the swimming pool book, because they liked the way the angle worked better.
Layout.
But it's actually the same photo.
Got it. So pretty. This is a great job. Okay. And then here you had a beautiful article or layout in Dream Pools. It's a nice big like coffee table book. And this was a great story when you.
Yeah, and I got to tell this story just quickly because we were actually on our way up to Oregon to see Shauna, which is where she lives, and we had found out that Amtrak was going to be like 3 or 4 hours late, and so I just happened to go down to Malibu, which we live close to, and there's this really neat store there that I went inside, and I picked up this book that said Dream Pools on it. And I picked it up, and as I'm holding it, I'm looking at the back cover and I go, oh, that's one of our jobs. So I immediately knew that I was going to buy the book just because of the back cover. And then when I got home and was able to read it, there was a beautiful spread on another gorgeous job that we got to do. And that was by accident because I realized that I didn't even run into that book again until much, much later. And if Amtrak hadn't been 4 hours late, I never would have even found that we were in there. It was a real honor to be there. Sorry to go off on these stories.
No. And that's a really great example of life working out and
yes,
little miracle, like, just looking at things from different perspectives. So I love that.
Right.
It's actually a good thing that Amtrak was late. And I do just want to say, because I was showing the images of some of the periodicals that you've been in the covers, and you are one of the most humble people that I know, and not one to brag or anything, but I like to brag for you. And there was just a few things that I've heard throughout the years in speaking of you in articles. And one was that you're one of the top 10 in the country in what you do. And one called you, and this was a Sunset editor, writer, that you're the master of outdoor living. And the other is that you're just one of the most well-respected in the Southland landscapers. So I know these aren't things that you remember, but I remember them, and I just think it's amazing, and I like to share that. So I did want to throw that. I wasn't going to say that, but I decided that I wanted to. So
yeah, well, I wasn't expecting to hear that, but thank you.
There you go. I wasn't going to ask you because I know you'd say no.
No, right.
Okay. And then this was a beautiful shot. And this is Pebble Tech, which is a process that it's a finishing process that goes on the inside of the pool to look like little tiny pebbles. It's a gorgeous process or finish that you've used forever. And I just really like this shot, and I like that it's a greatest pool award. So I had to throw that in there. Okay, but why we're here today is to talk about lighting. I know how passionate you are about lighting, and I know how passionate I am about lighting because of your passion. And what it does to a space is words can't even define or describe what it does. And I know from my own experience at my home, I would love the yard more at night lit up. The best time is dusk. And looking out windows into the yard, they became just pieces of art, the windows as you're looking out into the lit up space. So I'm crazy about lighting. And so I wanted to talk today about lighting. And so in the right light, everything is extraordinary, which is what I was just talking about. And so we are going to talk about some of the lights that you've designed and your inspirations, and maybe some application for each light and style, and a little bit of history if there's a cool story about a particular light. And so on to the first light.
So leave that, go back to that one just for a second, Shauna.
Okay. Yep.
So certainly what we can see here, first of all, there's a number of things that have been kind of put together from things that were already available in a particular way. Certainly the lantern on the right-hand side top was something that we purchase. We do a rust finish on it. We add a candle to it, and it makes it entirely different. But there's a number of these lights that are in here that just because of how we dealt with the finish or dealt with some kind of a thing, as you'll see through, it's changed it enough to make it unique in its own way. And the idea was to have these be part of all of the landscapes and pools and things that you saw earlier, because we think it really complements the overall job. So I have been designing lights from high school. And so it's always been an interesting thing to me. And for probably the last 20 years, we've been designing a lot of the outdoor lights that we use. Go ahead, sorry.
No, no, it's a really important information or description, because you have been designing lights for so long and working with them way before you're even deep into the industry. And but what I love is that you have a relationship with a manufacturer, and that's a very good friend. So the fact that you've been able to put these ideas together and go to him and then have him manufacture, so that you don't have to deal with the headache of that part of it. You can do what you do and focus on that and keep that creativity flowing, and then get to see your vision and then get to use them in your jobs. And then he benefits because he gets to then have them as part of his collection as well. So that's just a really lucky thing for both of you.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And we're talking about Bruce Dennis from Lightcraft. And the bottom line is I probably accidentally ran into him 40 years ago. And then later we become very, very close friends. And so many of these things just grew by us getting together, talking about them, and then something coming together. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it was very critical to be able to have somebody like that to work with that could take an idea that we had and actually turn it into something that could be used. So at least half of these lights that are up there come some way through Bruce, and some of the other ones we make up in a different way. But okay, yeah, good. That was good.
Because it's my understanding that what you wanted in a light for your landscape jobs wasn't available. Like, you had to do this because you needed to fill a need that you had that you couldn't find within the lighting industry until you made it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. In some of the situations there were fixtures that I didn't feel that the things that were out there were complementary enough to what we had done, and I had the resources to be able to work on different things, and not everybody has that. I was very blessed.
So we'll start with this one, the poppy, which I don't know how many years ago. I mean, maybe 20 years ago, because you're talking about the time frame of how long you've been working with Bruce.
Yeah,
But
and it may even be older than that. And I think the most important part of this light was the fact that we managed to get some different glass colors for it. Uh, this was one of Bruce's earlier lights. I liked them. And then the fact that we could bring amber into it was a result of another light that we had designed. And so those different kind of things came together as a result of some other things happening.
and the honey that was your favorite, the one in the middle. Excuse me, because it was such a warm,
Right,
soft glow to it.
right.
And I don't know if back all those years, 20, 25 years ago, how popular glass shades or fixtures were, like, because it's a whole other look, because you get that soft, beautiful glow, that's very different from a shade that's out of metal.
Right.
Okay, so that was the first light. And then we move into, this is your first light that you designed with Bruce.
Well, and this was really a situation where uh, I found this light somewhere and loved what it looked like, designed it into a really beautiful job that we were doing. went back to get it, and they informed me that they had discontinued it. And so I took the light to my friend and said, can we produce this? Because I think there's a wonderful opportunity. And the original light that was put together was not made for outdoor use. It was for an inside kind of thing. And so we were able to put it together to use as an outside fixture. And today, when I go back to jobs that we've used these on, aside from them giving light and being there during the daylight when they're not lit, as you notice from this picture here, it was still a lovely fixture to have in the garden, which I always thought was really important if it could be adding daylight or nighttime.
Yeah, this is a beautiful, it's so unique. There's something so soft, and just a gorgeous shape. And this is drilled so that it does drain. The water doesn't stay in there, for those of you wondering about that part. And I'm going to show this in the landscape a little bit, but this is a fixture that there's a few of them left, and then when they're done, they're done. So this is a limited edition at this point. And you can see in the landscape how beautiful it is. I love this shot. This is just gorgeous. There's just something so soft, and I don't know. I love this fixture.
Yeah, me too.
Here's another beautiful shot, framing the stairs up to the spa area. Beautiful shot. And now we go on to the Craftsman. So this was designed after the urn, and I know that you were very excited to have this light and to see it, your vision materialize, manifest. And I know you've had a lot of fun using this light. So if you want to talk a little bit about your inspiration and application for this light.
Yeah, well, this is one of those lights that we put together. Again, we call this the Mica Craftsman because this particular light existed back in the Craftsman style. And mica was really a form of, I'm not even sure what you call it, but it was an element that they were able to turn into a light for indoor use. And the mica would not work on the outside because the weather conditions would ruin it. So we had a glass cover made to look like the mica. We had a job going on, which I think you'll see a picture of coming up at the LA County Arboretum. And I ended up going to the company that made the other lights for indoors and was able to use that. And after we got that done, I was so pleased with how it looked that I went again back to my friend and said, can we make this? And the answer was yes. And so in certain kinds of settings, the mica light is really a lovely thing that kind of takes you back to the Craftsman. Because of the process of doing it, led us to some other things that I'll get into in a moment, but that's really kind of the way things work. You can move off into a particular direction with something, and then all of a sudden find out that there's another way to go with it. And if you kind of allow yourself to keep expanding that way, you can come up with some pretty incredible things.
This is a beautiful light. I love this so much. The soft, warm glow that it gives to a space. And I don't know, is this Bruce's place, property? This image?
You know what? I'm not sure of that.
I got this off of his website. So
okay. Well, then maybe it was. But also an interesting thing about it that it always blows me away is one of my next door neighbors, and I mean next door neighbor, all of a sudden puts in his lights, and he puts these in. And I can't believe that he's doing it. And he hasn't talked to me or anything. And so the house next door to me has these lights throughout the whole property, and he got them on his own and fell in love with them. So it was a really wonderful story. I've got them placed in other homes in the neighborhood, but his is very special to me because he did it on his own.
That's awesome. Yeah, driving through the neighborhood, there's a lot of these lighting up yards and
Right.
pathways, and it's just gorgeous. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful light. And I believe this next image is, so here's the Arboretum, the LA County Arboretum that you were talking about,
Right.
with the sconce lights there, if you want to talk a little bit about.
Yeah. So what happened? Those two lights on either side of the entranceway was actually a piece of glass that they had made, and we had it cut in half to make it into a sconce. But again, loved the process so much that we turned it into a pathway light and have used it elsewhere. And this was the Arboretum. And we can get into talking about the Arboretum and the stories there in a later event too, because they're just really incredible stories, how each one of the things came together. And yeah,
Yeah, just briefly. So we totally should do one segment on the Arboretum and
yeah.
talk about that. Just so you guys know, if you're ever in the area, is it officially Pasadena or it's
Arcadia.
Arcadia? Okay. It's right across the street from Santa Anita Racetrack. Beautiful, beautiful
Right.
Arboretum. And Dad, Nick, designed, has three different patio areas with fireplaces that are permanent part of the Arboretum. Quite amazing, beautiful, spectacular. So if you ever get that
Yeah.
area, and then, but we should do a whole segment on the Arboretum.
How
That
that
would be
happened. Yeah.
okay. And so here's the Craftsman with an opal glass. And as you were talking about designing the Craftsman light with the mica, and that was a very specific style, but then that led to then other style, slightly different style and different application. So this is with what's called opal glass. Again, gorgeous. And so if you want to talk a little bit about this light, maybe how you'd use it, what style.
Yeah. And I mean, really what's happened, I mean, this is the what we call the Craftsman, and it's really that metal piece that goes over the top that makes it look like light fixtures that were designed back in the 20s and before for the Craftsman style homes. So the opal came out just because the glass was available, and we said, yeah, let's order some of them. And with the actual cage over it, I don't use as many of those now. But so go on to the next.
Okay, because yeah, then it evolved more. Oh, well, here's the same Craftsman with the opal, but this is with a copper patina. This is that beautiful green patina that copper gets naturally. This is a really spectacular light. It is kind of limited in its application, more so than other ones, because it really takes a particular style of space, but a really nice option for something very beautiful and unique.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, and this just kind of evolved that once we had that, we said, well, let's try the patina finish on the copper. And with the white, the patina, it is just so elegant looking, but it's for a particular style job that you put that in. We used it down at the beach, which is where just the weather conditions would cause copper to do that. And so it worked out extremely well and is very, very gorgeous, very elegant looking. But that's still not where it really resolved itself to, which we're going to get to.
So
So,
here is the Craftsman without the cage. So it's a
right. So
whole
when
other
we
light.
when we had the cage and we started seeing the fixture without the cage on it, it became now a very modern fixture. And the amber is a gorgeous look. We've used that on many. And the next one that we're going to see is the opal. And all of a sudden, well, no, we're back at the Arboretum again, seeing one of the other gardens that we did, showing the mica light in the garden. And then this is the opal, and it's a very, very modern looking fixture.
It is a beautiful fixture. So
Yes,
we've got that.
absolutely right.
Okay. So now we're going to go into a section on the candle. So this is a whole other fixture that kind of took on a life of its own and has so many different applications. So we're going to touch on just some of those so you guys have an idea of what the possibilities are. So here's a beautiful landscape shot. I've always loved this picture. I just want to be sitting in that chair. That was designed by Nick. And drinking that beautiful glass of Chardonnay by the fire. Anyway, I just love this picture. So this gives you an idea of the ambiance that comes with the candle fixture. It comes in two different forms. This is the brass, and this fixture, so it's a path light, but all path lights can also be used in planting beds. There's other applications for them than just path. So to really get them out into spaces, they can be used in different ways. And then this particular fixture comes in 4 different sizes. So that, like with the smallest one, you can install those in big potted, the big pots. You can stagger them along a pathway so you have different heights. You could actually group them together so you had different heights, like candles typically come in. So there's just lots of, like, it's endless what the applications are, especially when you get into the different sizes. And then we have the iron candle, which you can see that it's rusted. It's got the rust finish on there, which you'll learn that we're very fond of rust as well. And do you want to say something about the candle?
Yeah, so certainly when the candle idea came up, once again, I was able to go to my friend and say, you know what, there are all of these different ways that we can use a candle, and you can use a candle in any landscape, depending on whatever kind of look you're looking for. You can have some candles because people end up putting candles out there. Now, an interesting thing about this particular fixture and how we got to it is that Bruce ended up finding some candles, brought them to me, and I said, oh, no, that's not going to work. We need it to look more like a candle. And he kept bringing ones, and then finally he brought one, and I said, perfect, that works really well. So these are made up, they're out of resin, and they have a little wick in them. So the interesting story about it is I've had many clients tell me that they've actually had their friends try to light the candle. And so we know we've really pulled off the idea of it looking like a candle with people trying to light it. So it's you'll see we've done them in chandeliers, we've done them in pots, we've done them everywhere. And it's really a classy way to do it. Plus, Shauna's going to get into it at a later time though. But one of the things that we both have really enjoyed doing is going to thrift stores, finding candle holders that hold a 3-inch candle, and then getting them wired for the candle to be set out in the garden, which means that there's probably only 10,000 different designs that are out there. And it is so much fun to do, and it's not difficult. So it's been the one that we've certainly have used the most of, the candlelight. Go ahead.
It's fabulous. And then it also comes with a flicker, right? So you can
And it
have
also
it.
has the potential now, we've figured out how to have a flicker in it so that it really does look like a candle that is burning. It's quite extraordinary. I've got a number of clients that have become very dear, close friends that I get to go over to their homes and go swimming and see the lighting go on, and it's incredible. And one thing that I don't want to forget to mention, and Shauna brought it up earlier, that the best time in the garden to see all of this stuff is at dusk. And so what I really recommend to people, they'll usually set their timers to go on when it gets dark.
Right.
Well, their timers can be on an hour before it goes to dark. These are LED fixtures. They're not burning any electricity, so you're not really wasting any money. But having them on earlier in the garden is so, not to make a pun, but so delightful.
Absolutely. And with the flicker or with just the standard LED bulb, those are different applications too. So if you wanted to have the path lights in the candle with the LED bulb along your path, and then use the candle in other areas and use the flicker, there's just lots of opportunity to get creative and really make a spectacular space. Makes all the difference.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, and then you had a beautiful little article in Landscape Architect on the candle design. Just wanted to highlight.
Yeah.
And here's just a nice shot of the path, the candle. This is the iron candle in the rust in the pathway, and just nicely framing the rock. These do look so pretty with anything like stonework or in a garden setting or by the pool or at the entrance. Is just, who doesn't love candles? Here's a nice example, some beautiful rock work with the candles.
And I do want to say, as long as we're on that last one for just a second,
Yep.
I got to design the set of steps going up to a second story over a garage. And it's one of my favorite things that I got to do, because they originally just had a wood staircase that was going to go up. And now you can actually drive a vehicle underneath that archway into an area in the back and the stone set of steps. So I don't see it very often, and being able to see this now just makes it feel very warm. And you see how lovely the candles go in there. There's also a sconce, which we'll see later on the left-hand side up
Right
towards the
here.
top. Right.
Yes, right here.
So yeah, this was one of my favorite things that I've gotten to design.
It's so beautiful. And actually, looks like there might be a candle right here set up on a little,
Could be, yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
just
they
jutting
were,
up.
there's so many different ways to use them that it's, I mean, I mentioned the number 10,000. That could be 100,000.
Okay, so yeah, here's a nice example of it just by a pool, a pond area. So just to not just think about these lights or any of the lights as just for path lights. They're called path lights, but they go beautifully in planting areas, planting beds, or next to the pond, or and here's a nice, beautiful shot of, this is a pool area. So this is a pool patio area. There's a pool over here off to the left.
And I'll also mention again, that's some of our furniture that's in the background there, which is a whole other story, but we have a whole line of furniture that we got to design. And this is a place that is just a whole story about this particular house also.
Yeah. Well, and I do want to point out here again is this a candle right here.
Yes.
Dropped into a rock, to a boulder. And I think it's just on the side of steps going up to a spa, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Here's a beautiful example. This is a pool here, and then the spa with the spillway, and then behind the spa is a little fire pit. I've been in this spa. It's quite spectacular. Here's a great example of taking this candle fixture and dropping it into a boulder. And then it's wired and it comes on with all your other landscape lighting.
And there's actually a rusty L up in the top there.
Right here.
Which you're about to get into.
Yep. And here's a cool little fixture too. This is the wall candle. It's rusted. Great for just next to, it's like a porch light.
Yeah, I mean, and it's such an easy one to do. It's just beautiful. Yeah.
And this is cool. This was the wall garden that you put together a number of years ago. I just wanted to show it because it's another fabulous example of the versatility of the candle, part of the 10,000 ways. And here it is the candelier. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, and this was an existing chandelier that we had, and we were able to just use it with the candles and then add a basket for putting the planting in. So you get a lot of different options, and I'm doing some work currently at this job right now, and this could have been done, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and it's just gorgeous now, the way it's grown and done, and the people
And
love
it,
it.
and it's just hanging from the tree, right? In the
Yes,
yard.
right.
So pretty. Here's a great example of using them in a big pot.
Yeah.
This pot you guys made.
Yeah, this is one of our line of pots that we do, which is a very natural. We have another very good relationship with somebody that makes these up for us, and there isn't anything like it anywhere. But certainly, seeing the candles in there on different heights works really well.
Yeah, I wish this was lit up. I wish this was dusk. I did see it at that point too, but just to show it as a really, and they're beautiful when they're not lit up. So that's a
That's
great
right.
example of
They
how
look
they
like they
add to
belong.
it. Yeah. So here is the third fireplace that's at the LA County Arboretum. And this was just a nice example of using the candles and dropping them into the mantle. Um, so another way to use them.
And then I will point out there's a rusty L at the bottom right-hand corner, which you're going to be talking about soon.
Okay, so now we're going to go into the rust collection. As I mentioned earlier, we love rust. It adds such a beautiful texture. And so here's some of the fixtures that we're going to go over. Now these were all designed again by Nick. So here's the Rusty L.
Yeah. And this is just a really, what it ends up being is that on pieces of property, and again, it has to be the right piece of property, but to have had a rusty piece of pipe or something be left over and coming up in the garden is not unexpected. What is unexpected is that it turns out later that it's actually a light fixture. And so once again, the right places to use something like this. Uh, and this is a home that I get to see quite often too. And they're just really absolutely lovely. And as Shauna mentioned, we love rust. I mean, I'm just crazy about doing things in rust, and the light fixtures really work out well with that.
They sure do. Okay, so here is the swivel, and this comes in a single swivel and then a double swivel, and these are adjustable. So these turn so you can angle the light. So like this being a path light, you could have one side illuminating the path while the other side is tilted and illuminating the planting bed next to the pathway. That's just one example of how to
And
use it.
again, have to point out the fact that these are not for every job. But the jobs where they work well, they work really well. And this is a wonderful example. And yes, you're right. You can light up the pathway and then you can turn the other one to light up something. And we just recently did a whole bunch of these, and it's a whole other story that we'll talk about at a later date. But we just did an enormous labyrinth. And for those of you who know what a labyrinth is, it's a pathway that kind of is a spiritual thing that you can walk through. And it was very appropriate to have these pieces of metal coming up and showing them throughout the labyrinth, and they were lighting up trees and the pathways. So once again, in the right setting, they're fantastic. And we're certainly not saying that they're good for every setting.
So here's the double swivel, and this comes as a path light height or as an accent light light height. And so again, you can have one side lighting up a boulder or, some element over here, and then the other side lighting up. So they're just really adjustable and have lots of uses, but again, for the right job. And then it's also available done in the copper patina.
Yeah, which is just gorgeous. Again, for the right job, it's really a wonderful fixture to have in there. And so just having that opportunity to be able to do it in a different finish is very nice. And there's probably other finishes that we could also explore. So whenever there's something that comes up that you think has a particular need, talk to Shauna, because there's other ways that things can be done. This could be done in a gunmetal finish. This could be done in bright red. There are a lot of different things depending upon what the application is. So lots of different opportunities with this.
Absolutely, which is so cool to be able to invite the end user to get creative and to have their idea and
Right.
bring it to us, and we work together and collaborate, and then they end up with something really unique and something that they had a big part in creating. And then every time they look at it, it'll just bring them more joy.
Right.
Here's what's called the hammered pathway light. And it's hard to really see in this image, but this does have a beautiful dimpled texture. That's hence the name hammered. And then with the rust finish on it, it's just a really, it's got a really rich texture between the hammered and the rust. It's just gorgeous.
And I'm going to point out for you and I, seeing this and talking about the patina copper,
Oh,
that could
yes.
also go on this too. So it's a
Oh,
very, very nice looking fixture.
oh,
We added a finish to it. The finish could be the patina copper, which could take it in another direction. Very
that
good.
would be gorgeous. Wow. Okay. And then here's the Rusty Lantern, which you talked a little bit about earlier. And this is just such a fabulous piece that can be used. You see it here. It's on the little hanger, the stake that goes into the ground, or here it's just setting on a boulder. Um, and there's also one that you can mount to a wall, so it's hanging just off of the wall, rock wall, or you're by the door. Um, so this has a lot of application. I'll show it here, um, and this beautiful landscape here. So you can see it's just set around in the space, and it just
Yeah,
adds.
and this is the perfect application for it, where you have kind of a rustic feeling, and the idea of having these lanterns around, which you would end up ultimately going and lighting them and going through a whole thing. Well, now they've been wired, they're already rusted, they have a candle in them. They're really ideal. So again, for the right project, it's a fantastic application.
Here's an example. Here it's just setting here, and there's the urn, and here's a rusty sconce as well. And then this is a amazing. This has a great story. So, Dad, I'm going to go ahead and let you talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this, and I think the next shot you're going to see,
Mhm.
these are tough sheds. And if you've been around, you've seen tough sheds advertised all the time. They do a great product. And then we cover them with stone and turn them into something that's really special. This particular home has three different ones located around the property. And then, of course, we add the arbor to them. And then the lighting just makes it feel so, so good. So that's just another thing that we use and a way to go that you can really do something very nice.
That's very unique, Dad. I don't know. I'm guessing you're the only one that's done this. Maybe not now, since others have seen what you've done, but to take something like this and see it in the way that you did and transform it
Yeah.
into something completely different. And here's another great example. Even put the tile, and you just put a little bit up here on the top because that's all you see, right? It gives the illusion of the whole thing being tiled
That's correct.
and gives it this really heavy, substantial feel to it. Like
And
it's
then,
been
of
there.
course, the whole rust collection works so well here, showing the candle, the lantern, and what we call the rusty L over on the right-hand side. So in this kind of an application with some of the other rusty art pieces that we put out there, you can see how it can be just perfect for what's going on, whether they're on or they're not, they're still adding to the whole area.
Absolutely. And then we have some uplights. So this is a smaller, this is a 2-inch for lighting up elements in the yard. And then this is a larger one. This is what we call the 4-inch. And it also comes in the copper patina here off to the right. And again, made to look like a pipe. And this also, just as all the other ones, as Nick was talking about, could be multiple colors and finishes.
Right.
But uplights are, that's a really important element to have. Light up corners of the yard, light up trees, boulders, just interesting elements in the yard. Really makes a difference in creating that layered feel and pulling you out into the space. And then here's the rusty sconce. So these are 3 examples. These have been made in many different designs, but this shows how they are completely customizable, and depending on the space and the style. You've done initials or numbers or just different designs. So this is very versatile. And I have an image here. Yeah, so here's a beautiful image of, this has got the maple leaf or the sycamore leaf on there. How I would call it a maple leaf, Dad, not a sycamore.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, and then this is one that's up and coming. It's in the design works right now, but I wanted to put it in here to entice you. This is a gorgeous fixture that Nick is working on, called the honeysuckle. If you want to talk a little bit about it, it's the very last one.
So what's interesting about this right now, this is a fixture that's been around for a long time. What makes it different is that we've added the 2 pieces of metal to it that make it look like a punk from a water plant. And then we do it. What's that?
Is it a cattail?
Cattail. I'm sorry. Thank you. You're absolutely right. Cattail. That's what I was looking for. But we're doing this in 2 different colors, and we're using 2 different lights. And I'm working with Bruce again and saying to him, you need to be able to come out with this because it's really a good looking fixture. And I've got a few of them at the house that I've been kind of playing with. And you do it in rust, and then you also do it in the patina. And it's 2 different colored light fixtures, the glass pieces. And I just think it's outstanding. And again, it can go in many, many different gardens, which I love that whole idea. So yeah, we're working on this to bring this back again. So it's coming soon. Yes.
Hurry up. It's a good one. That's exciting. And I don't think I've seen it in rust unless you have one at the house, but I mean, I can imagine it, but I'm sure it's just stunning.
Yeah.
And then what are the 2 different, is it like this honey and then an opal?
No, this particular color here is the one that I do with the rust. And the other one is a multicolored one that starts out actually with a patina green and then goes to a cream color.
Okay, I have seen that one.
The light fixture already comes that way. So the 2 of them are just exquisite. And I'm as excited about these two as I am about all of the other ones that have come before them. And this is actually just taking something that had been around for a long time and reworking it a little bit. And I think it's exquisite.
How exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I just have a couple examples. This is a beautiful outdoor room, with a lot of lighting going on. I just wanted to end with a couple images of beautiful spaces. And then this next one is just a nighttime pool area, nicely lit up. And that's how I wanted to end it. So is there anything that you'd like to close with, Dad?
You know what? This has been so much fun to do, Shauna, and go through it. And knowing, most of these homes that you've shown with the lighting, I'm blessed to be a part of them quite often. So I get to see them at dusk, I get to see them at night, and I get to see the looks on my friends that have become close friends because we've worked on their places, and to see the joy in them. Um, and it makes such a difference. You started out with, having the lighting can make such a difference to the whole project, and having a variety of things that you're able to use out there continues to make a difference and add to our enjoyment of life, which is the reason we're here.